All right. Call this meeting to order. So I've already got a look from Dwayne's like, what's going on?
I'll just count.
So yeah, I had not heard from Jacob or Nicole, so maybe they're just running a little bit late. But we'll call the Parks and Recreation meeting for April 21st to order. And with this, the first item on the agenda is election of officers, and this is one that we always one meeting where I start the meeting, and once we elect a chairperson, then we'll go ahead and the chairperson will take over from there. But before we do that, let's welcome Rachel Kramer, who's our newest Parks and Recreation Commissioner. Welcome, Rachel. Okay. You'd like to give a little summary of yourself and your interest in serving on the commission?
I'm missing the booming mic tonight.
So I went to Iowa State about a decade ago, and I recently moved back to Ames. The parks have been a big attraction for me, and I was looking for an opportunity to get involved and give back. And when I saw this, I was like, great, let's do it. And I've also been really excited to see all the different additions, and I feel like there's a lot of momentum with the Parks and Recreation Department, and so that's very exciting to see and to support as well.
Awesome. All right.
Welcome, Rachel.
Yeah, welcome. All right, so the first item of business for tonight is election of officers for the chairperson, and I would take open up elections, and if there's any nominations from anybody, get a motion and a second.
I think that Sarah does a fine job with that gavel, and I would like to nominate her as president. Chairperson, sorry.
Chairperson. Is there a second?
I will happily second that.
All right, so we got Jeremy with a motion to nominate Sarah and a second by Nathan. Any other nominations? All right, hearing none. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of electing Sarah Cady as the chairperson, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, hearing none, motion passes. Sarah Cady is our commissioner for year
gavel
3.
Back. Yeah. Yeah.
You just look right with that.
Oh,
gavel.
yeah.
Now the Sarah dynamic duo has disbanded, so we have to elect a new vice chair. Are there any nominations for the vice chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission?
I'd like to nominate Jeremy.
Ooh. You can't miss any.
I can't miss any. Oh, I'm pretty good at not missing. So, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or additional nominations? All right, seeing none. All in favor of Jeremy Bristow as vice chair of the Parks and Rec Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Seeing none. Congrats, Jeremy, on being vice chair. You're the second oldest serving member by a month now.
Yeah,
So.
it's probably about time. Again.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Back to it. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from the March 24th and March 31st, 2022 meetings. Would anyone care to move to approve those?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, motion on the table to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none. All in favor of approving the minutes from the March 24th and March 31st meetings, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the public forum. This is for items not on the agenda. I don't see anyone in the audience here to speak on the public forum, so I'll go ahead and close public forum. Next item on the agenda is a presentation on the Iowa Creek restoration project in Brookside Park.
So with this one, we have Liz Calhoun from Public Works here, and she's been to the meetings in the past. So if you remember, the commission, prior to last summer, we had shared some information in regards to this project for stream bank stabilization and really trying to protect some of the homes and amenities of the property owners on the east side of Iowa Creek through Brookside Park. So there were some meetings that were held last summer outdoors, a bit contentious at times, a lot of comments, a lot of feedback, and so on. So really what we did is we asked Liz to come tonight. Since that time, did have 3 meetings in March and April. Dwayne had attended those meetings, and tell you it was a very different environment. And Liz will kind of walk us through some of where we were, what was changed, where we are now, and some of the feedback that we've been getting. So, Liz.
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be back and give you an update on this project. We're in our second go round, so I'll give you a brief history of last summer. As Keith said, we had our first concept, and it included stream bank grading from the southern pedestrian bridge up to the northern pedestrian bridge, that entire length, about 1,700 feet. We had, on that concept, we had riprap down by the tennis courts and on the steep slope on the east side. And we were also planning to repair some storm sewer outlets, provide access to the creek, have in-stream rock riffles. So that was the initial plan that we took to the public. And we had a fair amount of feedback and concern about the degree of disturbance. We are listening to all the concerns. We expanded the team to include Iowa DNR, the fisheries, and the river experts. We added a landscape architecture firm. You're familiar with Confluence. They joined us on the project. We also then got additional funding and expanded the scope with that additional funding. So what you see up here is our second concept, the plan that we presented last month and early this month. And it's quite different than our first concept. We don't have disturbance the entire length of between those 2 pedestrian bridges. Instead, we look closer at the linear length of that area. And if you start down the southern pedestrian bridge, we're leaving some trees. We're trying to minimize tree clearing, and we're leaving that area. And then as you move forward, actually, the next slide, I think it might talk more about this. Yeah, so this gives us more detail on the expanded plan. And on that plan, you'll see a light blue area on the left part of the creek. That is actually a realigned section of the Iowa Creek that we're planning to put in there. Oh,
Hey, Liz, just for a minute, in a couple of things, what Liz talked about with listening to the people that attended those meetings last week or last summer, really several things. The use of more unnatural type of methods, so the riprap and so on, the number of trees, and we really didn't have a good idea of the number of trees that were coming down. We just said that some trees were going to be coming down, disturbance to wildlife. What does it do to the park? The potential damage. So that's really kind of the thing, not having a plan for vegetation, how are we going to maintain this, all those types of things. And I think it was also fresh off of the start of the project along South Duff, Iowa Creek there. And I think it was just fresh in everybody's minds. So they were really concerned. So those are some of the things that we heard, and those are some of the things that we're trying to address with this part, which Liz is kind of going through now.
yeah. So just kind of giving a little more detail on this plan. So this area right here, this light blue area, is actually a new alignment. the existing stream, if you start down here and then go up like that, and like that's the existing, but this new section will be, it's probably about 500 to 600 feet in length. And what that will do is take the pressure off the east bank, which is right in here. That's the main erosion area that we're concerned about. So by moving it over here, it will take the pressure off of that. And then the existing stream will actually become an oxbow with a storm sewer outlet to catch, improve water quality in that area and to catch water as it comes down the slope. And so that's probably the main big difference. But then there are also some smaller changes, like we're not going to continue with major disturbance up on the west bank here in the park. There are some significant habitat in there that we just didn't want to be disturbing. We will be maybe doing some selective tree removal, but we estimated that probably about 75 trees will come down, and another slide will show that a little bit better. But yeah, so some of the other things that we're going to do here is add some natural in-stream practices, like rock and log riffles. We plan to reuse some of the trees that come down. We can actually incorporate that into the stream banks, and rather than having to take it out, and but we can reuse that to help stabilize the slopes. Reduce the tree removal on the private property. We had on the east side, we had a lot of concern with trees being removed on some of the private lots. So we reduced that down. We're going to reestablish some native vegetation, remove the invasives. There's a significant invasive area down right in here that's pretty thick with honeysuckle. So we'll be definitely getting that maintained and getting that out of there. And then there's some other selective honeysuckle throughout this area. We'll be cleaning that out. Provide better access at the 6th Street down here with a more formalized boat, kayak, and canoe access, and then also some other elements in the story that have to do with the stream. So next slide there. So this is the
Liz,
trees.
Liz,
Yeah.
if you can go back to that last slide for a minute. So one of the things, and I know it's difficult to see, but if you go on the website, I believe Liz has this stuff on the website. It's kind of broken down into phase 1 and a phase 2.
Yeah.
The kind of from bridge to bridge was phase 1, and then up there is phase 2. Liz mentioned earlier some additional funding. And we're hoping that what we will be able to do is to do all of that as one phase, because there is some concern. You can kind of point that out, Liz. Up there's some major erosion, and kind of close to right there at the that part right there, close to the trail. So we really want to try to take care of that as part of this first phase if we can. Because otherwise, if we do nothing, we'll probably wind up losing, part of that trail, and we'll have to reroute things. So hopefully with the additional funding that through grants and stuff that's been received, we'll be able to do all of that as one phase.
Yeah, so this is an estimate that Paul Taki put together for the trees to be removed. So you can see the types of trees. It's about 75 trees is what we're looking at. So again, a lot more selective, and you'll see that most of these are floodplain species that grow quickly, and we don't have a lot of like oaks and old growth type trees that we'll be removing. So yeah, so that was a significant change from the South Duff project that we did earlier this year. So yeah, so that's kind of a summary on the trees. And then as far as education and recreation, we have some additional ideas that we'd like to pursue. Again, putting that access down at the 6th Street Bridge, and then having an informal trail to the creek. We're still trying to develop just what that looks like. There's people on both sides saying, oh, let's not have too much access, but we definitely want to provide the ability for people to interact with the creek. possibly have some stepping stones in the creek to, again, for people to engage at the water safely. Then we'll also look for opportunities to put benches at overlooks or, just provide that additional amenity. And then we'll be adding educational signage about the habitat, the landscape. As part of our meetings last summer, there was a discovery of the rusty patch bumblebee, which is actually a threatened species here in Iowa. So we're actually going to play that up like, oh, this was found here, and increase the habitat for that and increase the food and environment for the rusty patch. And so that's what brings us to where we are now. We're going to be continuing to work with the adjacent property owners and define what we're doing with their property, and also with keeping you guys up to date here. Our designers which is WHKS and Confluence, they are proceeding with design right now so that we'll have more detailed design, and we will be bringing that back to the public this summer at approximately 75% completion. And so we'll have a lot more information on the vegetation, just where the different zones will be. The Confluence has worked up an approximate sketch that shows that there's 4 different zones from the upland down to the water, and we'll have those defined and then have a vegetation plan to show the different types of plantings. And then we also need to get permits for the disturbance in the floodplains, and just to make sure we're not impacting flood elevations and just going through the regulatory process. Yeah, and that's pretty much, hopefully, I guess there was one last thing on there, the construction, the most important part.
sorry.
Construction, our goal is to get it done this winter, this coming winter. It's a good time to build. The water's usually frozen, it's usually ice, and it's a good time to work in that creek. It's usually lower. So, and we have constraints because of the Indiana bat being also endangered, and the rusty patch bumblebee. The timing is a little tricky there, but that's the plan, is to work on the project in the winter. So we'll definitely have a lot of educational outreach with signs in the park, really making a strong effort to get the word out as we determine how that phasing and what's going to happen actually in that construction zone. How do we keep it as accessible to the public, but yet still have to figure out how to get equipment in and out of there. So it's going to be tricky for sure, but we'll be working with Parks Department on that and try to come up with a good solution. So, any questions?
I had a question about the oxbow. You said that the new oxbow would improve water quality from the storm sewer outlet. And so is the straightening of that section just allowing the water to flush out or disperse more quickly? Is that how it's improving the quality?
So what happens is that oxbow will actually hold the water. So it'll come down the slope from the storm sewer, and before going into the creek itself, it'll go into that oxbow.
Okay.
So it's a separate area. And so the only time that once it overflows, it'll then go into the creek, but it's basically to hold the water in there and treat it. So it has a different type of vegetation, and that can help to treat the water and recharge it back into the ground to try to, again, for flood, helps for flooding and just having more capacity in the stream channel right at that location.
So it helps pull out some of the nutrients,
Yeah.
some of the sediment that maybe comes from that storm sewer will settle down in that oxbow, and that helps with all the water quality downstream.
There's also a really small little oxbow. It's kind of on the west side right here. Like if you walk along the path there, you'll notice that there's a depression there right now. So we just have to reconnect it at the stream. It's about a 6 foot deep. When I walked down in there, I was like, wow, this is deeper than you'd think. So getting that reconnected back with the stream will also let water back up into that area and provide some additional habitat and water quality. So.
Maybe this is just a general question for Keith. With removing invasives along the creek, is there any concern about removing invasives on the west side? Like there's a lot of burdock and honeysuckle and whatnot, just to prevent it from migrating back towards the creek, once that area is replanted with natives and whatnot.
Yeah, we've had conversations with the Friends of Brookside, and actually with the weather, they haven't been able to do it, but they're going to be planning a couple of days where they'll go out and try to get volunteers and do some invasives. And some of it's the garlic mustard. I'm not sure how much going after burdock or the honeysuckle, but those are all things that we'll try to address as we can. Right now, so with everything that we've got going on, sometimes the invasives is not high on the list, but it's something that once and with Paul Tauke, once we get through this first round of tree trimming in the right of way and in the parks, tree trimming and inspections. We're going to be doing all our trees once every 5 years. So once we start that second cycle, it should go a lot quicker, which will in turn free up some of our staff to start going after some of these other things like invasives, maybe some other projects that we haven't been able to get to.
Friends is also planning to move some of the ephemerals that we would otherwise maybe disturb, the flowers that just come up briefly in spring and then disappear. So they plan to do that within the next month. Again, the weather, depending on the weather.
Yeah.
It's but there's two professors one that's their specialty, and so they're planning to schedule some time and move them to locations, and maybe be able to move them back potentially to some of the project area. But just trying to not lose some of those, because they're pretty neat when you have those in the understory there.
All right, if there's no other questions, thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you.
We'll give you updates. We'll bring the commission updates as we know more, and when we finalize the plans before we start construction, and probably a good time for another update. So, thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is a motion approving the facility use agreement with Green Hills Care Center from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Thank you. This is a continuation of the facility use agreement that the Parks and Rec Department has with Green Hills Retirement Community, where they provide access to their facilities for aqua classes as well as swim lessons for the department to be able to produce as appropriate. Recently, with the closure of municipal pool, we also have been able to, within this agreement, work with the Green Hills staff to open up some community spots during their water walking hour 2 times per week. So that's another benefit of having this available at this time. So no items within the agreement have changed from the prior year. So with that, staff's recommending alternative 1 to approve the facility use agreement with Green Hills Healthcare Center, Inc. from July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023.
Okay. Would anyone care to make a motion?
I move to approve alternative 1.
I will second.
All right. Motion is to approve the facility use agreement with Green Hills Care Center from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Is there any discussion?
Keith, is there any prohibition of having a longer term agreement since the other pool's not going to be open, that we could tie this up for a couple of years rather than just one at a time?
Yeah, generally, any agreements that we enter into are a year at a time. And it's something that we can take a look at. But I don't know if it's something that they would let us do or not. So So we can check into that and bring it forward at another meeting. But I think for right now, because this will be the last one, really, I think that we have for this round. I know we did a lot in March. So when we start the cycle up again next year, we'll do some research on that.
I'd hate to lose a prize venue that we've been in a long time, just a year or two before the next one's going to be ready.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and we have a good relationship with them. So really the only time that they have not let us use it is when they closed the facility due to COVID. But
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of approving alternative 1, the facility use agreement with Green Hills from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is a motion approving Jack's Outdoor Gear waive of the 10% gross sales and rent canoes, kayaks, and paddleboards at Ada Hayden Heritage Park.
So and this is another agreement that we've had. We've been working with Jack since 2005, on doing this. And really it started, they had approached us, wanted to do something. And what it does is they have all the equipment, they man it. We don't have the capital expense. We don't have, to staff it and so on. So obviously it has worked out great for both parties, and the beneficiaries are the park users. They go out there, and if they don't have a canoe, kayak, anything, so they can do that to paddleboard. And really what it does too is that some people have never done it before, so it gives them the opportunity to try something new. So it has been a great relationship, and staff is recommending alternative number 1, that you approve the agreement or the waiver, waive the 10% of gross fees.
Would anyone care to make a motion?
A motion approving alternative 1. It's been a great relationship.
I'll second.
All right, motion is on the table to approve alternative 1, the request from Jack's Outdoor Gear to rent canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddleboards from May 28th to September 5th and waive 10% of the fee of gross sales. Is there any discussion?
Just so you know, I'm for this agreement, but do we charge anybody the gross tax anymore?
Yeah.
We do. There are some, and because not everybody comes before the commission for a waiver. Generally the ones that do come forward. So like this one, obviously it saves us a lot of money and a lot of staffing. So it makes sense for, if you look at it, with what they had last year, 7,000.
Yeah.
So, $700, we wouldn't be able to do this for 700. We have, same thing with the Ames JCs, with that, they've given over the years, $5,000, $6,000, something like that, maybe even a little bit more to our scholarship fund. So generally in those things where it saves us and things, we do the waiver, but we have food trucks. We have sometimes other activities that come, and we don't bring those forward to you. So there are things, because we sometimes they'll ask and we'll just say, no, we don't support that. And then say, okay. So there are some that we do get the 10% off of gross sales. I don't know how many that is right now.
a list.
Yeah, I was having the same thought, because I feel like
We're
every
chuckling over here.
every time I see one of these, I guess I always see the end wave 10%.
I mean, there are a lot of rentals that just aren't these like sort of partnerships that that don't even come here because they aren't asking for a waiver, so we don't have to do any action.
And I guess this is mostly just curiosity, but do we know like how much we bring in from like that 10% that we charge?
I don't think so. We could probably figure it out, but I have to
Yeah, I don't
Just
need to know
offhand,
this,
I
I'm just
don't.
curious.
It's not gonna, you're not gonna, your jaws aren't gonna drop because the amount of money is so big.
It isn't keeping the city of Ames in function, or
Well, we had a bait station out at Ada Hayden that I think we brought in about $120 last year. So,
Ooh.
so, but
In-
now
in
that
halfway to an
that bait
Xbox.
station is gone because obviously it wasn't lucrative enough for that individual that did it. So,
Okay. Do
So
we
if
have
you
a-
would have waived the 10%, we'd still have the bait station. Is that what you're saying?
It doesn't sound like it.
$110?
I'll tell you what, we'll just bring all these two guys and no, I'm just kidding.
Great. Did we vote on this?
Dwayne's bacon.
Okay.
Actually, I know
We're
the
still
guy who
discussing.
ran it, and he just happened to.
Get control of your commission. will you,
Great.
Sarah?
Yeah. Focus.
It's just an interesting question. We kind of chuckled when the 10% came out because it is something that seems like it's the same people year in and year out, and is everybody enjoying in this?
Mhm.
Do we charge them all or not charge anybody? Kind of mentality is where I was at. But and if it's not enough to really move the dime and buy the stuff that Joshua needs to run the place, do we start using it as some place to make it better?
Okay. All in favor of approving alternative 1? The request from Jack's Outdoor Gear to rent canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddle boards and waive the 10% fee of gross sales. Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, seeing none, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a motion approving Friends of Ada Hayden Heritage Park request to waive enforcement of the prohibition of motorized vehicles for their annual tours.
So this one, this has been a good thing. There's no waiver of 10% on this one. So
I don't know about that.
so
You're gonna cost
so they-
$10,000 to drive your golf cart around.
yeah, so they have done this, and in the past they've done one day, and what they found is last year it was obviously it has been very popular, and they did have to turn some people away, and one of the stories was the last ride they were short 2 seats, and they were short 2 seats to get people on. And then one of the providers, whether it was Northcrest or Green Hills or somebody that had brought them, said, "That's all right, I'll take them for ice cream." And they said, "Okay." And so they went for ice cream. Everybody was happy, and they didn't get their ride. But anyways, what they want to do is they want to expand to 2 days, this year. They have always done it on say a Thursday and then had a rain day for a Friday. But what they're looking at is doing it on Monday, September 12th, Tuesday, September 13th, between the hours of 8 and 5, and then they will have Wednesday, September 14th as a rain date. So it is a good thing. People love it. They get a lot of compliments, and they are going to expand. They've been a little bit selective as to who they reach out to. But with going to 2 days, they're going to be able to reach out to more, whether it's retirement communities, assisted care facilities, and hopefully get more people out there on these tours. So staff does approve, or not approve, but recommends alternative number 1. And really, commission, since this is a city ordinance, the commission doesn't have the authority to waive it. But so the alternative is to recommend city council waive enforcement, and then we'll take this to city council next Tuesday, if that's what your recommendation is.
well, that's awesome to hear. That I think it's a good thing that the event was going so well that we almost didn't have enough time for it. So
Yeah.
I'd be happy to extend it to 2 days. So I'd move to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Right. Motion on the table is to recommend City Council waive enforcement of Ordinance 19.9 between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. on September 12th and September 13th, as well as the rain date of September 14th, to allow the Friends of Ada Hayden to provide golf cart tours to mobility impaired individuals. Any additional discussion? It's a great event, and it allows a broader range of people to get a tour of the park. So, yeah. All in favor of alternative 1, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is a motion approving the revised auditorium and bandshell rental rates for this year.
Yes, thank you. So as city auditorium fees continue to evolve and user groups continue to evolve, and over that time, as some fees have come and gone, there have been some different constructs that have impacted groups differently. One of these affected groups, as listed in the commission action form, Story Theater, have presented to staff, especially with some extended use times that they put on for their productions, how they were still facing some increases with their fees over the years. And so staff, Craig Kaufman in particular, the auditorium, Bandshell, and community center manager, put together some different options on how we can, continue to provide a facility for these community organizations, not only for a facility, but then also from the side of, the revenue side from us, so we don't lose those individuals coming to utilize our space. So what was put together in place of that, and what is being presented, is a implementation of a ticket fee, or a facility ticket fee waiver for local groups that are, and really any group, it doesn't have to be a local group, but a nonprofit group who is fostering youth participation within their programs. Also from the Parks and Recreation side, how we try to, incorporate and encourage youth to involve in all activities that they can. So this is really a facility ticket fee waiver for organizations fostering youth participation, which means that the production consists majorly of youth, or all youth performers, which would be grades 12 and under. So it was with the great communication that staff has with their users, being able to put that into action. And this was presented to Story Theater, and they supported staff's recommendation that's being presented in front of you today. So our recommendation is to approve alternative 1, to implement a facility ticket fee waiver at the city auditorium to waive the ticket facility fees for nonprofit art and cultural organizations fostering youth participation.
Yeah, I will just say too, on the agenda, it said auditorium and bandshell. This is just for the auditorium.
Okay. Would anyone care to make a motion?
I'll move to approve alternative 1.
I'll second. All right. Any discussion on the motion to approve the implementation of a facility ticket fee waiver at the city auditorium for nonprofit and cultural organizations fostering youth participation? All right. If there's no discussion, all in favor of approving alternative 1, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a motion approving the Parks and Recreation Commission schedule for the next year.
So we do meet, the commission meets on the third Thursday of every month, and that's what's laid out. There are 2 exceptions, to that. In the month of December, you'll see December 1st, usually that first Thursday of the month, the commission does meet with the city manager to discuss the capital improvement plan. So that's on here as a special meeting. And then also March of 2023, the last meeting, because the third meeting falls during spring break, the commission for a number of years kept saying, can we move the meeting? Can we move the meeting? So we'll just move it right off the bat. So that is actually the 4th Thursday of the month rather than the 3rd. So somebody wants to make a motion for it to approve those dates, that would be good.
I'll move to approve the meeting dates.
Second.
All right, motion on the table is to approve the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting dates for the 2022 through March 2023. Is there any discussion?
I just see that May is going to be electronic. Is that right?
Oh, no, that's a
Okay.
mistake.
Okay.
So no,
I wondered.
they're all in person.
Okay.
So you can, if Jacob, if you want to just make a friendly amendment that these are all in-person meetings.
Yeah, I will make the amendment that these are all in-person meetings.
Do we need a motion on that in a second?
No,
Okay.
no friendly,
Yeah.
friendly amendment. You
Okay.
don't have to vote on it.
All right, all in favor of approving the meeting dates for 2022 through March 2023 with the amendment that the May 19th, 2022 meeting will be held in person in City Council chambers? Please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is an update regarding the Indoor Aquatic Center.
Yeah, so there are a number of things that we continue to work on. The DOT working on getting the land, the offer to buy agreement, and there's just a few things we met with. When I say we, two individuals from the city attorney's office, and I met with 3 members from the DOT just to discuss the offer to buy, and went through a few things and things that we wanted to be included and so on. So we've been going back and forth with that, and hopefully what we'll be able to do is get something finalized. I'm going to guess early next week. We should be able to finalize that. And again, that offer to buy is 2.9 million. Now, one of the things that we are also looking at is we did get some additional reports from the environmental study. So we got a soils report. There were some things in that soils report that will follow up with a structural engineer to see if there's any concerns about putting a building on that site, and if there's anything in that report. So we want to make sure that we don't spend 2.9 million and then all of a sudden we can't put a building on it. So we'll be doing that. Then there is some, we're waiting. We'll get a final report probably next Tuesday in regards to any contamination, on the site. So we'll get that, and then also we'll get an infiltration report that won't be ready probably for another 2 weeks. Infiltration report isn't as big a deal. It's really just more for landscaping and things of that sort. So the big two is with that. So with that, we will probably we want to get that information, try to get that before we finalize an offer to buy agreement with the DOT as well. So that's one piece that we're working on. We're still working through the construction manager, and also for that agreement, also working through with RDG on the agreement for them to do the design. And we were hoping to take all these items to city council next Tuesday, but there's just too many things that are going on with them, and we can only move so fast in getting information back and forth and so on. So we have moved that information or those items to the May 10th meeting. Hopefully we'll be able to take the offer to buy, take the RDG contract, and also take the construction manager contract, all at that May 10th meeting. So trying to think, is there anything else that we were going to do some donor recognition, just to follow up with that, commission made the recommendation to city council, and city council did approve the naming of the facility, the Fitch Family Indoor Aquatic Center, and then the Mary Greeley Medical Center, the therapy pool, and then the Fairway Fun Zone for the zero depth entry and play structures. So they did approve those. You had asked about the Keto Winokur with that request. I did talk with individuals that were involved with that, and they said that she did not have any desire to have anything named after her. In fact, said that she generally didn't want her name even on a donor wall or anything along those lines as well. So that's just a follow up to the question that was asked last time. So I think that's it with the aquatic center. That can you guys think of anything else? Kind of a brief summary, and you don't want to hear all the details on everything that we're going back and forth with. I will say, right now, just when we're putting together our project budget, I will say this with the project as a whole, which takes into the cost estimates from Stecker Harmsen on the building, basically what we did with for the conceptual design, with their cost estimates, with what's been proposed for RDG, been proposed for the construction manager, the land cost, fixtures, furniture, and equipment, FF&E is something that we'll hear. Jeremy's waiting for the for the drum roll here, right? So with all of that right now, we're already over the 31.2 million. So that's what there are some things that we're trying to get answers, to, and things, and just and that's with, here's what we want to build, 41,000 square feet, and so on. So that's something that we're working through as well. And those are conversations that we're going to be having with the construction manager, RDG, Stecker Harmsen, and so on. So that's just, we'll have to see, but it's obviously not good news, especially the way with material costs still continue to rise in some things. Some things are stabilizing a little bit, but we also get, and you'll hear this when we get to the downtown plaza as well. So we're doing whatever we can to get this moving forward, and obviously we need an indoor aquatic center, so we'll continue to do what we can to make that happen. But there is only so much funding available. Mm-hmm. Any questions?
Do you all qualify for any of the $100 million destination construction grant for either one of these projects?
Yeah. So we there was a staff member, planning and housing director. They had a webinar last Friday. He attended that, and his take on it was that we would not qualify, for those projects, as there really was some of the criteria that they're looking for is how many people are you bringing into the state? So with the Destination Iowa in the title, they're really trying to, how can they bring people into the state? And so that would be a hard thing to justify, with a couple of projects that we have. I believe also that he had mentioned that anything within a reinvestment district was not eligible for the grants also. So, which both the downtown plaza and the aquatic center is within the reinvestment district. So, and we have still yet not heard from the state of Iowa, the Iowa Economic Development Authority, regarding the reinvestment district grant or application that we put in February. So, but no, we did look into that. So, any other questions?
Okay. Next item on the agenda is an update regarding the downtown plaza.
So we had this out to bid. Bids were due April 13th. They came in. We had 5 bidders with it. And the one thing is the bids from an owner's perspective, they were somewhat close to each other. But we had roughly about, let's just say, $300 or $3,500,000 some $1,000 for construction. Low bid, and we did the base bid, and then we had several alternates. The low bid came in at $4,619,000. So with it, total project funding is less than what the base bid came in, and that doesn't include contingency and A&E and some of the other things that we have to do, FF&E and so on. So right now, next on Tuesday night, we will be going to City Council, reporting the bids to City Council, and then getting direction from them. We have had some conversation with the low bidder in regards to some value engineering, and they do have some ideas, maybe that things could be changed a little bit, but just from a project standpoint, we're almost $1 million short on the total project. So we'll report the bids. We'll have conversation with City Council. They'll provide direction, and then on May 10th, we'll go back at that time with a final report and see what kinds of savings we can incorporate, and see if they're willing to use some of their council contingency to fund the project. So, yep. One of the things I was going to mention is one of the things that we heard, the timeline as well. So there's in the building, there are precast panels. And for a long time, precast panels were not an issue. People could get them. They were using them because it was cheaper or because of the availability. They were able to get them quicker and move forward with their project. So we were told now that precast panels probably March of 23 before we would be able to get them. And we were hoping that the project, especially the building, would be closed up. So we could start putting in the ice equipment and so on. So that is something that, we'll be talking with the low bidder on as well, is how do we move through that? Is there an alternative? Those were insulated panels, because obviously we're heating this building in the wintertime with the restrooms and so on. There's talk about, doing, kind of poured in place, panels, but then how do we insulate them and so on. So with that one as well, there's going to be a lot of conversation in the next 2 weeks, so we can take something to council on May 10th regarding that project.
Okay.
Anything amiss on that one?
Yeah, I've just got 2 questions. First, what do you think is obviously $1 million gap is a hard gap to fill. Do you have a rough idea of what general steps are most likely to be taken or might need to be taken?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you. So.
Oh, sorry. Given that, it's kind of a large budget shortfall for us to fill, I was just curious what steps you think are most likely that we'll need to take, or what things might be cut, or where we might have to go.
Yeah. So in preliminary discussions, if we do something other than precast panels, that may be a cost savings
Okay.
With it. If you remember those precast panels, they were kind of imprinted so then it kind of looked like a wood siding to them. But so with that, the roof structure, or not the roof structure itself, the panels on the roof, maybe go with something different, than what's up there. But again, we have to make sure that whatever we substitute isn't going to cause issues and fits with everything else. Anytime we do these projects, and you'll see this in the council action form, the council could say, hey, you know what, let's not do the ice. Let's not do the ice loop. In the bid, that was, $1.2 million, just for that component. But that also then doesn't meet the council's vision for having a space, year-round space with activities that you can do year-round. You could cut the water features. That was about 600,000. But there are other things that are going to be in that area that could still be done in the summertime. So those are a couple of things. We could there is a $150,000 allowance for artwork, for the signature art piece. So we could say, hey, let's not put the art piece in right now. Let's leave that space as just open green space, for now, and in the future council could elect, if there's general fund savings or something, to put artwork in there. One thing though with it is just with the FF&E, again, the fixtures, furnitures, and equipment, for this, just for the benches, the tables, the chairs in here, we have $134,000 for all of the FF&E for the project. We got a quote from the company who their equipment was spec'd in the bid. And they said, oh, we see that you spec'd our equipment. Here's a quote for all the furniture that you have. And that came in, it was like $160,000 or $180,000 just for that. So we're already over if we do that without making changes. So so we may be looking at other company, other tables, other chairs, and so on. And one of the things that so that's what I'm saying, that is that $150,000, we may choose not to do the artwork, but it doesn't mean that $150,000 doesn't go or goes away. It may just be reallocated to other things that we need to do. But one of the things, whenever we do a project like this, we want to make sure that whatever changes we make don't drastically change the intent of the project or really reduce the quality of the materials or the equipment that we're putting into a project like this. So, and sometimes it's not always easy to do. Sometimes there winds up being some, oh, hey, that makes sense. We can do that substitution. Still got a good longevity to that material. It's going to look good, and so on. And sometimes we can't. So those are some things that we've already been discussing, and we'll have more discussion, on those items. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good question.
Any other questions for Keith about the project? All right. Next item on the agenda is project updates for other projects.
Yeah, I think maybe the only one that we may bring up is the pickleball courts. We've been working with Schneider and Associates on getting that design and so on. And, we have $75,000 for that project. And initially the cost opinion came back to like 145, something like that. So we have, Courtney, Joshua, and I met with Snyder. We went through some things. We went through, we made some changes and so on. We now have the project cost down to $116,000. One of the things that we did do is we're just doing final amendments for our budget, and we did have some cost savings on a couple of projects. But so what we did is we added 25,000 to this, so we'll bring up our budget to 100,000. And did have conversation with the pickleball group. They are willing to help out. So kind of the leader, if you remember Eric Fascio, who was here when we talked about this project, him and his wife were both here. So he's been our point of contact, and he has reached out to their pickleball group and said, we're willing to help. Let's see what we can come up with from donations and so on to try to help with get this project done. So we're waiting to hear back from him, but and unfortunately we've tried to Courtney's leading a project up at Innis Grove to redo the tennis fencing up there, and then also add a fence along the ravine by the volleyball courts, so balls don't go down. And there too, between the two projects, we have $50,000, and the quotes that Courtney got were over that. So we added 25,000 to that project. So hopefully we'll be able to get that accomplished as well. So hate to sound like a broken record, but it's one of the things that we're experiencing. And when we get into this next CIP cycle, it may be one of these things where we have to start making some decisions on, if we have 10 projects, maybe we only do 7, and we have to increase, some of the amount of money or funding that we put to some of those projects and delay. And that may be some hard discussions, but it may be something that we will have to do. So you can start to at least be thinking about that, because it won't be too much longer. Where May is just around the corner, and we usually start our process in August, start getting information and so on. So yeah, it's just the way it is, and it's just not a good environment to be doing a lot of building and things. And we have other projects too that we haven't put out to bid yet, but cost opinions always seem to be higher. The dredging project, but that was very, it's somebody coming in and loading up trucks and taking the material to another spot. That one came in under bid.
Yeah.
So and when we get that project done, we'll have hopefully we'll have a good amount of savings, and then we can move that to some of these other projects as well, where we have some of those shortfalls.
Does the dredging guy do construction as well?
We'll ask him.
Okay, yeah, ask about it.
Pickleball.
Yes. How good can you paint supply?
Well, and it's interesting, just even with it, because one of the things that we had talked about is potentially just doing the pickleball courts and then not resurfacing the tennis courts, because they weren't done. They were done in 2017, you said, so not that long ago. And I'm down at the park shop on Friday afternoon, and I was talking to staff, and what are you doing, or what were you doing today and stuff. It's like, well, I was out at McCarthy Lee and had to rip up some of the things off the tennis court. It's like, what do you mean? And said, well, some of the surfacing had come off, and they took me over to the truck, and they had 3 or 4 rolls of stuff where we do this, what it's called armor crack repair, and that stuff let loose, and with the wind, it really just kept moving it. So he wound up just pulling. So if you go up there, thankfully it's the expansion joints between the courts. It's not on the court itself, so the courts can still be played on, but it just doesn't look good. So we send something off to Snyder and Associates on Monday and say, no, that's gonna have to be in the base bed and not as an alternate. We're gonna have to do that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good, but it's the reality of what we got going on.
How much do we have budgeted for emotional support for Jen?
That's
Same funny, right? We feel that.
Where is that in the CIP?
Yeah.
$1 million toilet repair.
oh my God. That's my only wish is to have those bathrooms named after me when I'm gone.
I'll jot that
You
down.
can make
Jeremy.
a bequest to the park in your will. So,
Write us a check for 40 grand.
yeah.
That wouldn't even pay for a door.
All right, so that's just a couple updates on projects that we didn't show elsewhere.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the monthly report. Courtney or Joshua?
Some exciting news. The water has been turned on in the restrooms, so individuals that are out in the park system, bathrooms are open and available, cleaned daily. Also, the water fountains will be turned on hopefully by the end of the month. They're a little more conducive to freezing and damage, so that's why we turn those on later. So it's spring. It's spring, whether we think it is or not, or whether the Mother Nature thinks it is or not. So
Let's try.
That is some exciting news.
I see you jumping out of your seat.
Yes.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, a lot of programs moving from indoors to outdoors, so that's exciting. Youth spring soccer is underway, over 230 participants there, and
Wow.
reminder that with May around the corner, the Ames ISU Ice Arena will be closed for maintenance month, and then we'll reopen 1st of June.
Awesome.
I just have a couple of things that I want to mention too. I don't think we mentioned this, but Paul Tauke's name came up in the conversation. He actually resigned as city forester, took a position with West Des Moines. So he's been gone as of April 1st with it. Really sad to see Paul go. You know, being our first forester, the knowledge and experience and expertise that he had was incredible. And he has done a lot in just shy of 4 years. So we'll be recruiting for that position. Hopefully we can get somebody that will be able to take what Paul has put in place and continue those plans that he has, so we can continue moving forward and we don't take some steps back. So that was a big blow. He's a great person, and we wish him luck with his new position. One of the other things is this past weekend we did have the fishing event out at Ada Hayden. I think when I got out there at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, the wind chill was 14 degrees. So not great for fishing, but there were people there right at 9 o'clock. There were a number of volunteers, the ISU Fishing Club. There were a couple of other people that were out there helping. And throughout the day from 9 to 3, a good number of people did come out and fish. We did give away door prizes at the end. So really thanks to Jax for coordinating it. And with it also, the DNR did an unannounced stocking on Friday of 2,000 trout. So that's what people were fishing for. And but when I got there, I was there in the morning and I went back in the afternoon at 1:30, and I think they at the time they only had seen like 5 fish caught. So it wasn't a lot. They spread out really quick with it, but thanks to everybody that was involved with that. And then the last thing that I would just give you a heads up on, and then also for anybody at home that's watching or listening, is we're working on staffing. Furman Aquatic Center is obviously a huge concern for us. Right now, we're maybe at 55% of what we need, for lifeguards with just over a month to go before we open. Courtney's been working hard with other staff. We've been trying to do some different things. You've seen some signs, the yard signs out in the parks, telling people that we're hiring. We did just go through our aquatics wages, and we've raised our wages to be more competitive. So